Welcome to tonight's Down on the Corner, episode 37. We are thrilled to have as our guest tonight, former New York Met, Matt Franco. He's probably best remembered by Met fans for his clutch pitch hitting. He played a key role in the team's late 90s success. One of his most iconic Met moments came on July 10th, 1999, when he delivered a pinch hit single off of Mariano Rivera to score 2 runs and give the Mets a crazy 9-8 win. That was an amazing game. Over his career, Matt proved to be one of the most reliable pinch hitters in baseball. Welcome, Matt. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Anytime we can sit
Hi,
down on a
guys.
Thursday night and talk baseball, we're always doing good.
All
So,
right.
as always, for everyone in the Zoom room, I'll begin the questioning, then I'll turn it over to you guys in the Zoom room for some questions as well. Those of you in the Zoom room, remember to keep yourself muted at all times. So, Matt, basically, it's pretty wild. You're born into a baseball family, as your grandfather was Neil Oliver Bing Russell. Uh, the story goes that he grew up around New York Yankees spring training in St. Petersburg and became friendly with players such as Lefty Gomez, Joe DiMaggio. There's even an urban legend out there, and maybe you can confirm this, that Lou Gehrig gave your grandfather the bat that he used to hit his last home run. He was also the Portland Mavericks owner, the only independent team in the short season Northwest League. Probably one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it, guys in the Zoom room, check out The Battered Bastards of Baseball. It's on Netflix. So, first of all, how aware of your grandfather's baseball background were you, and how much did that inspire you to be a baseball player? And can you authenticate that he actually did have that bat?
I can authenticate that he had the bat. He passed it on. He passed it on down to my mom, and it was funny. There was a couple other bats too. There was the Lou Gehrig bat. There was also a bat signed by the Yankee team. I want to say it was a 34 bat. Had all the signatures on it. And there were some other bats. Had a Babe Dahlgren bat in there. And my mom had them sitting as you walked into the house. You know where those things where you put the umbrella things in. My mom had the bats sitting in there. And we had kind of heard the stories, this and that. And I kept walking by those bats. I'm like, you know what? I want to look into these bats a little bit and see what the deal is here. These might be worth something. I don't know. Anyway, to make a long story short, I got in touch with some memorabilia people and I told them the story and they was like, wow, take some pictures, took some pictures. Next thing you know, I'm having the bat flown across country to get it authenticated. We went through a bunch of different stuff. And it was authenticated as they couldn't actually say that it was the very last bat, but it was one of 4 bats. His last bat order had 4 bats in it, and it was one of those bats. And through the provenance, I think they call it, that they could say with confidence that it was his last home run bat. And my mom decided that bat should be someplace else other than sitting in the umbrella thing. So we put it up for auction, and um, with the deal that the bat would be put in the Hall of Fame. So the person who bought the bat anonymously donated it to the Hall of Fame, and the bat is sitting there in the Hall of Fame with a little thing about Bing in there.
That's
So
absolutely
yeah,
amazing.
that
That
that was that story. I was definitely aware of his baseball career and his baseball background, the lefty and the Yankees and all that. So much when I was a little kid about that. So I don't think that inspired me to play baseball in itself. We were obviously a baseball family, and I started playing baseball when I was young. And, I was pretty good at it when I was young. So just kind of went with that. And then as I got older, I learned more about the Lefty Gomez and that story.
Absolutely amazing. And talk about, a pretty good player when you were young. Standout player at Westlake High School. You're named to the All Southern Sectional First Team after hitting 533 as a senior, which, by the way, we should note was 33 points higher than another guy by the name of Brett Boone, and quite a bit higher than another pretty good player that was actually named to the third team by the name of Jim Edmonds. What do you recall about your time at Westlake and the competition in California back then? And what was the biggest thing you learned from Coach Dennis Judge back then?
Yeah, those were good times. I was very successful. Nice to know I I beat Brett Boone and Jim Edmonds. Geez, those guys passed me pretty quickly on that totem pole. But yeah, that's pretty neat to hear. Yeah, those were good times. At that time, by the time I was a senior, it was pretty apparent that my baseball career was going to go past high school. I had some scholarship offers, Arizona State with one of them, Cal State Fullerton. So at that point, we knew that something was going to happen. As far as learning from Coach Dennis Judd, I don't really remember a whole lot. I remember him being a nice man, but at that time, he was a PE teacher and was doing the best he can. I was pretty well versed in baseball by that point in my life, so not really sure how much he had to teach me, to be honest.
So you had, it probably back then it wasn't unique. It is now. Journey to the big leagues. You started your professional career at the age of 17 after being drafted by the Cubs. Spend the next several years climbing the ladder in the minors before making your major league debut. What kept you motivated during those years? I mean, you did start out young, but after a while it becomes a grind. Who was the most influential person for you that kept you plugging through that journey?
Bing, without
Really?
question, Bing. Yeah. He was very interested in my career, obviously. He and my grandmother, Lou, they would come out to where my first season was in Wytheville, Virginia. I was 17 years old, and they came out there and got an apartment in Wytheville
Wow.
and went to all my games, traveled all around, all the road games, and they did that all the way through my minor league career. So I spent a lot of pretty much my whole minor league career until I got to AAA, until I got traded to the Mets, really. So yeah, I was definitely Bing. He bought me a lot of dinners in those days when we weren't making a whole lot of money. Bing became very popular with the other players too. He was a great baseball man. He was very motivational. The guys really loved him, and he took a real liking to the team and had a lot of knew all the players, knew all the stats. Would follow the bus on those long road trips. Went to all the road games. It was pretty amazing.
That is amazing. So you're called up on a September 1st call up by General Manager Ed Lynch, promotes you to the majors, and within 10 days of that recall, you make your major league debut and you also get your first major league hit. What do you recall about those moments?
Well, I remember him very vividly. My first day in the big leagues was actually I got called up for 2 days in July. I believe it was Brian McRae had got suspended for getting thrown out of a game, so they needed a roster spot for 2 days. And since I was on the 40-man roster spot, they called me up, which was very exciting for me and my family. Met the team in San Diego. Unfortunately, I didn't get into the game, so I checked off one box that I could say I was on a major league roster for 2 days, but I didn't get in the game, so it was a little bit unfulfilling. And then at the end of that season, I got called up. Man, I remember the first day at Wrigley Field out there, beautiful day game, standing on the line, listening to the national anthem. My whole family was there, and I remember that feeling very well, satisfying. It doesn't really do it justice, but I can remember that sitting there looking around and saying, "Wow, I made it! I made it to the big leagues! Holy cow, dream come true!" And it wasn't for a couple days until I got my first at bat. I have a funny story about my first at bat. So I remember being in the on deck circle, getting ready, and my juices were going. I was like, "Yeah, man, let's go, let's do this. Can't wait for this at bat." And as soon as the guy in front of me made an out, I hear over the loudspeaker, now batting for the Chicago Cubs, Matt Franco, and I literally just gasped like. I mean, it completely sucked the air out of me. I couldn't breathe. I was walking up to home plate, just trying to breathe, saying, "Come on, Matt, get a hold of yourself. Breathe." Like I literally could not breathe. I remember getting in the batter's box and I got in there to hit, and my back leg started doing this like sewing machine leg. And all I could think about was, oh my God, that's all anybody's looking at is my sewing machine leg. I'm on national television right now, and that's all anyone can see. So the at bat was kind of a blur, except I remember it turned out to be a good friend of mine, Armando Reynoso. That was my first major league at bat. We were playing the Rockies. First pitch, I swung. I don't even really remember it. I know that I swung. I hit a bullet right to Andres Galarraga. There was a runner on first base. And, normally the first baseman, when the pitch is thrown, they take a couple steps off, to get ready to field it. Well, back then, Andres was maybe a little bit lazy. He didn't really do that, and he just kind of took a step. I hit an absolute bullet right down the line. That would have been an easy double RBI first at bat. What a great story. And I hit literally a bullet. I didn't even get out of the batter's box. Andres Galarraga caught the ball, stepped on first, double play, my first at bat. I never even got out of the batter's box. So then it hit me. I'm like, yeah, wow, that was pretty badass. Good job, Matty. So I'm walking back to the dugout expecting all these high fives and stuff. And Jim Riggleman, the manager, was sitting there on the top step. And as I walked by, I'm expecting all these, yeah, great job, great job. And he says, we make our outs one at a time up here, rookie. And I was just like, oh, man, I'll never forget that. That crushed me. But I sat down on the bench and Mark Parent, old veteran backup catcher, we called him Bernie. He came up and said, that was awesome, totally awesome. Don't worry about what that guy said. So made me feel pretty good. And I got a little instant street cred there from the boys because I remember people coming up like, way to swing it, way to swing it. So that was kind of one of those moments for me. And
Yeah,
the way baseball works is the very next day, I got my first hit. It was against Luis Aquino, and it was a routine pop-up fly ball to right field that the right fielder lost in the sun. Ball plops down right there. Got to score to hit because, he never touched it or anything. So blue pit, but hey, I'm in the books. It was my first hit. So that was pretty, that's how my first couple days in the big leagues went. My first start in the big leagues was the only time I ever stepped on the field as a second baseman. We had a bunch of guys get hurt. Riggleman came up to me and asked if I'd ever played second before. And I said, yeah, I play second all the time. I'd never played second a day in my life since maybe when I was 9 in Little League. So I got my first start in the big leagues at second base. I'll never forget. That was the most nervous I've ever been on a baseball field for sure. And Frank Castillo. So we're in about the 7th inning, and Frank Castillo's got a no-hitter going. And I'm like, oh my God, they got to get me out of this game. Because, I don't have the range of a second baseman. Guy could hit a ball up the middle or in the hole or something that a big league second baseman gets easy, and I'm not going to be able to get there. So I'm like, they got to take me out. This is ridiculous. But there was nobody that could play. They ended up in the 8th inning. They put a guy named Ray Sanchez out there. He basically had a cast on his arm. And Frank Castillo went 8 2/3. And Bernard Gilkey hit a triple off him. I remember that because I ended up playing with Bernard in New York. So we had a laugh about that. But yeah, kind of a crazy first couple days in the big leagues with the Cubs.
absolutely. A bunch of welcome to the show moments there for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting too, because you hit 294 in that month, but the following April, you're traded from the Cubs to the Mets for a player to be named later. And then you have to head to Norfolk. I have to imagine that, after that grind and climbing up the ladder and getting known to the organization, now it's, granted, you're not all the way back, to rookie ball, but you're back in the minors and you have to prove yourself all over again with a different organization. What went through your mind when you heard you were traded?
Well, I got to take you back to before that. So I went to spring training with the Cubs that year, and I thought I had a good chance to make the team. I got down towards the end and I didn't make the team, and they called me into the office, like they do. And I went in there and I was disappointed, but I wasn't angry or anything. Hey, stuff happens. So I went in there and I said, okay, guys, I'll go work my butt off and get back here. I'll be back soon. And I said, where am I going to be playing, third or first, or what's the deal? And I'll never forget. It was Jim Hendry said, well, that's where we need to talk a little bit. We're going to start you on the year. We're going to start you on the DL in the year. And I was like, huh? DL? What are you talking about? I'm not hurt. I had no idea what they were talking about. But what they do then is they can keep guys on the 40-man roster, and they weren't sure what they were going to do with the team. So they were going to put me on the DL to start the season. And I was like, oh, hell no. I'm not starting on the DL. You guys got to do something. You got to trade me or release me or something. And then, well, we can't do that. Anyway, you get 72 hours to where you have to report. Normally, guys just come back right away. But I was like, screw that. I'm going to take my 72 hours. And there was some bad blood there. I was on the 40-man roster, so at this point, I'm starting to make a little more money now. And I had a decent contract, a split contract, I called it. I had a major league salary and what I was going to make in the minor leagues. And to make a long story short, I got a call from a guy named Jack Zarenzik with the Mets, and he called me and said, Matt, we'd like to have you. But there's a problem. We can only afford to pay you X, which was a quite a quite a good amount less than what I was scheduled to make with the Cubs. So that was tough. But I said to Jack, I said, "Hey Jack, am I going to come down there and play every day?" He said, "Matt, you're going to be our everyday third baseman." So that was an easy decision for me. I said, "All right, let's do this." Took the pay cut to go play every day in third base, and as it turns out, that was where my big break was because Bobby Valentine was the manager of the AAA team for the Mets that year. He had a deal where he offered or accepted to go coach in AAA with the knowing that he was going to get the job the next year. I think it was Dallas Green was in the last year of his contract. So he was in AAA. I went over there and finally everything came together for me. It just everything clicked and I had an unbelievable year. I was almost MVP of the league. I led the league in doubles. I hit 323. I just, I pretty much dominated the league, and it was apparent at that point that all right, this guy's ready for the big leagues now. And when Bobby got the job, it didn't take till the end of the year. He got the job, I believe, in I don't know, late August, early September, or something like that. And as soon as he got up there, I was called up right away, and that's where I got really my big break. So I was a Met from there on out.
Right. And the following season, you get your big break early on in the season. Andy Tableron goes on the
Yep.
injured list, and you get called up for the big club, play
Yep.
118 games that year, and put up really nice numbers. What did that success mean to you after all those years?
Yeah, that was the validation that I needed for myself inside. Until you get to play a decent amount and really get to see what those guys have, just never really know if you belong or not. Plus, I wanted to know that I belonged, and I wanted to see what it was like to play up there on a daily basis, and I got to do that, and I had some success. So I finally realized that I was where I belonged. I belonged in the major leagues.
Yeah, you mentioned Bobby V, and it's interesting because it seems like for most major leaguers, I'm not talking about the first round number one draft pick, but the guys, probably 3 through 7, rounds. It really takes one guy somewhere along the line to have a belief and confidence in that player to make him the player he is. How important was your relationship with Bobby, and how much did he mean for your career?
He meant everything. He was like you said, you need a guy in your corner, and I had proven myself to Bobby that playing that full year in AAA, and he came to like me, love me as Bobby's like a father figure to me. We became really close. I played for Bobby for 10 years, full year in AAA, 6 in New York, and then 3 in Japan. So Bobby's very very dear to me. But yeah, he was in my corner. He knew I could play, and I owe a lot to Bobby.
So, I've always looked at you as a guy ahead of your time. And for the young, I mean, you take a look at the faces in the Zoom room, there are not a lot of young faces in here, but the ones that might be watching it, on the archive, uh, I kind of look at you as the first Joe McEwing or Justin Turner in Met history because you really became known for your versatility, playing multiple positions throughout your career. How did you approach, the daily grind of, you know, having to be ready for multiple positions or a pinch hitting role late in the game?
Uh, I embraced the role. I was ecstatic to be in the major leagues. I was on a really good team. I had superstar players playing my position, so I had no gripe there whatsoever. I loved being in the major leagues, and I was happy to have that role and have some success. And that's a big piece of the puzzle there. You only get 25 guys on the roster, so all 25 are very valuable. And being the premier left-hand bat off the bench was it was an honor to me.
So, as a pinch hitter, you had some memorable clutch moments, including walk-off hits, game-winning RBIs. But we alluded to this in the open. Probably the most memorable one comes July 10th, 1999. Mets are trailing the
Probably.
Yankees. Yeah, I would say definitively. The Mets are trailing the Yankees by 1 run after blowing 2 leads. Um, you know, and because they blew a lead, so Benny Agbayani was taken out for Melvin Mora. for Morrow went in as a defensive replacement. The Mets give up the lead. All right. And now Morrow's turn comes at bat because of an intentional walk to Mike Piazza to load the bases. You come up against the closer of the decade, maybe of all time, and Mariano Rivera. Um, he gets you 0-2. I just got to ask you before the hit, how did you lay off that third pitch? That 0-2 pitch, like, oh man, the discipline that must have taken is crazy.
Uh, yeah, thanks for making it sound good. I gotta say, I don't think that was very intentional, to be honest. If I had I don't know how I took it, and honestly, I don't know how the umpire called it a ball. If it was low, it was a half an inch low, and back in those days, the umpires they weren't quite held to the accountability that they are now. So they were a little generous with the strike zone, let's say, and especially in a situation like that with a Mariano Rivera on the mound and a Matt Franco at the plate, any type of call, even close, goes that way. And for whatever reason, this time the guy called it a ball, and I remember that feeling when that ball crossed the plate. It was like, oh man, I just lost my opportunity, ball, and I was like, oh my gosh. Um, yeah, I remember that at bat. I swung at the first pitch, had a really great swing at a fastball that he left out over the plate that he never does. And I had a good swing out and fouled it back. And I remember thinking, well, there you go. You just had your chance. You had your big chance, and you blew it. So here we go. Let's go into battle mode. And then the at bat went, and sure enough, he threw that pitch again. Left two fastballs out over the plate. He probably left about four of them all year. Where he put those, and two of them were against me, and that time I didn't miss it.
Absolutely not. But you say that normally those calls go against Matt Franco as opposed to Mariano Rivera, but you also can't sell yourself short because I think umpires understood that you knew the strike zone. I mean, you set a record for 20 walks as a pinch hitter, so your reputation might have helped that a little bit too.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take that, but still, that pitch was so close. I
it
mean,
was close.
even
Yeah,
even if it was Mike Piazza hitting and he called it a strike, nobody would have said anything. I mean,
right. No,
that
no, it was
was
close.
that was one of those miracles.
Yeah. Joe Torre was convinced it was a strike. That's for sure.
Yeah, he was. Really funny story. Years later, I was at the horse track, the races, with my uncle, and we're walking down the thing, and I hear this ball wasn't low, Franco. And I looked up, and it was Joe Torre sitting there. I'm like, hey, Joe, that ball was low. And we had a good laugh about it. That was funny.
Oh, that is awesome. So 1999, the Mets are a wild card team. 2000, they go to the World Series. What are your fondest memories of those two seasons?
Man, my fondest memories are just being on a great team with great guys and just intense moments. The whole year was fun because we were good and the camaraderie was awesome. But as it got down towards when we were going to make the playoffs, we were in the playoff hunt, and we knew we had a chance to win those couple of years. That I just remember the whole vibe. It was just coming to the ballpark. It was so awesome. And then making it into the playoffs is always so exciting. I got to do that a couple more times with Atlanta later. But yeah, I remember when we were playing the Cardinals and Mike Hampton was pitching. We were up 3-1 in the series, I believe. And I don't remember who the hitter was, but he had a routine fly ball to center field. And, we were all on the bench going, waiting for him to catch it. And God, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. And I think it was Brian McRae in center caught the ball, and we all just ran out in the field, and it was pure elation, just pure elation. I'll never forget that. Going to the World Series, that's all we could keep saying. We're going to the World Series. So that
Amazing.
was really exciting.
You talk about fun. 1999, you also got a chance to pitch in two games. You struck out a guy who received 61.6% of the ballots for the Hall of Fame. You struck him out
Andrew
looking.
Jones.
Andrew Jones. Walk me through that and what you also remember about pitching against the Dodgers.
Oh man, that's so yeah, the first game was against Atlanta. Some of these funny stories are coming back. So I was playing third, and John Franco, we were getting blown out by Atlanta. John Franco came in just to get an inning of work in, kind of one of those things, and he walked the first guy on 4 pitches. Didn't really look like walked the second guy on 4 pitches, and you could tell something was wrong. The trainer came out, and something happened. John stayed in the game, threw a couple, couldn't go. Walk the next guy. So they came out to take Johnny out, and Bobby was like, Matty, come here. So I went in there and we're talking. He's like, have you ever pitched before? I'm like, yeah, in high school I did a little bit. He goes, all right, you're on the mound. And John Franco said, all right, he used to call me son. I'd call him Pops and he'd call me son, just the Franco thing. And he's all right, son, those are my runs out there. Let's go. I need you. I said, I got you, Pops. I got you. Oh, um, Brian Jordan, first hitter, first pitch. No. Sorry. Brian Jordan hit a home run later that inning. It was Otis Nixon. First pitch to Otis Nixon, triple in the gap. All 3 runs score, literally on the first pitch. And I look in, I look at Johnny, and he just goes. So I gave up all 3 of his runs. I went on to give up another 3 or 4 of my own. They just shelled me. Threw like I don't know, I think I threw 80 something pitches in that inning. So that was my first one. The next time was against the Dodgers, and I went 1, 2, 3. Oh, to get out of that Atlanta jam, I struck out Andrew Jones. So that was the that was the highlight. I got to bust his chops a little bit about that later. And then going against the Dodgers, I did good. I went 3 up, 3 down. I struck out Dave Hansen. I don't know if you remember that name, who we became friendly a little bit because we were the same. We were counterparts. He had the same role with the Dodgers that I did. So that was kind of fun to get to needle him a little bit.
Awesome. So, lastly, before I turn it over to the Zoom room, your son put together an impressive high school baseball career at the same high school you did, earning all-state honors, helping his team win the Southern California Regional Championship. He's now playing college baseball. As someone who played at the highest level, what's it been like watching his journey? And not only that, at the same high school way you played, and what's some of the advice you have given him along the way?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question. Yeah, it was man, it was a blast watching him grow up. I coached him travel ball and that stuff up until he was about 13, just before high school. And wow, he was a one heck of a player, boy. He was something else. He went to a school called Oaks Christian, named Oaks Christian. A big Christian school up here, private school with a good sports program. He went there, he played on the varsity team as a freshman, had a great year as a freshman. Next year, he came back as a sophomore, and they have these things called the area code games out here where it's like the best players go play for, California. There's a couple teams in California, Southern, Northern. Anyway, it was during COVID, so they didn't have the tryouts that they normally would have had, where Nate was young and he more than likely wouldn't have made the team that year. Anyway, they didn't have tryouts, and a friend of a friend knew the coach of the area code games, and somehow Nate got on the team, went out there and did great. He was the youngest player in the whole thing. He did great, and through that, he got a scholarship to Arkansas, which I don't know if you guys know college baseball that well, but they're as big as it gets in baseball. They're a perennial top 5 team. So that was very exciting. He signed to go to Arkansas. And then just stuff started happening. He got COVID, and that wasn't good. Kept him out for a lot of the year. We transferred to Westlake. That's a whole nother story, but he had to sit out some stuff there, and it's just his junior year kind of got wasted. And then halfway through his senior year, he hurt his arm. He tore his labrum in his arm, and surgery was going to happen. He didn't want to have it during the season because he was he was like team captain on their when he was a senior, the team that went on to win the state thing. So, he was playing first base. He couldn't even throw. He had to underhand the ball, but he was that valuable to the team that he played first base. So we thought we could get it healed in time to go to Arkansas, but it didn't heal right away. So we ended up going to Cal State Northridge. He got a scholarship there, which is nice, but his arm just never really healed. And it's good enough now where he can play. He's playing at a junior college here, but his future baseball is gone. It was a shame. He was such a good looking player, and he had just a great arm as a catcher, utility player. And he just never recovered from the arm injury. So now it's a little bit different now. We would I'm still very involved in his career, and we talk deep baseball, but it's more, make sure you're having some fun out there and playing, whereas as before it was a little more serious. Um, and we'd really get deep into technique and mind frame and all that stuff. And those were fun times talking real baseball with him. Now we still do, but it's a little more lighthearted, so to speak.
I lied because I was going to turn it over to the Zoom room, but because you just said that, it triggered something in my mind. So I have one more question for you. You take a look at the wealth of knowledge that you have as far as a baseball mind, and you hear it when you speak and talk about it. Any inkling at all, post playing career to get into coaching at a high level?
No, no. I played my playing career was 20 years. Um, Baseball had run its course with me at that time. Um, I learned through my career that maybe coaching at the big league level might have been something, but to do that, you got to pay your dues as a coach and go back and kind of start over. And I was just I didn't see myself riding the bus all through the country again. I did that once. I spent enough time in the minor leagues to I'm proud and I'm glad I got to go through that grind, but it is a grind, boy. And it never interested me to go back and do that again. So coaching was never really an option for me. Plus, I had after my career in Japan, I had a 2, 3 year old son, and I wanted to go home and coach him.
Nice. All right, this is the part I like where I just to get to sit back and just press unmute. Oh, Damon was slow on the draw today. Stevie Lon got his hand up first. Guys, just remember you can either just raise your hand old school style or use the raise hand feature, whichever. All right, Stevie, you're up. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, nice to see you, Matt.
Hey, Steve.
I have a couple weird personal connections to the 2000 team. Uh, my cousin married Johnny Bomarito. Do you remember him? He was a clubby, and he always talked very fondly about that team. And you talked about team chemistry. And I'm now going on my 5th year of fantasy camp. Mike Hampton was my coach this past year. Also got to spend a lot of time with Glendon Rush, and those two guys, man, they had me in stitches the whole
Oh
week.
yeah,
So I'm wondering if
funny
you
guys.
had sort of any stories and relatable stories about the chemistry of that team, and what are some of the funny stories to you from that time?
Oh man, there's just so many. Those Glendon Rush and Mike Hampton, funny guys. It's cool to get to know those guys on a different level because you see them when they're on the field and you know what type of competitor they are and you know how pretty much everybody sees them. But knowing them in the clubhouse is something totally different. At the end of the day, we're all just a bunch of kids in there. We got a serious job to do and we're there to play baseball, but once the game's over and you're in the clubhouse in your underwear playing cards and having a couple beers, it's just like, I mean, it's unfiltered, as they would say. So, yeah, there's a lot of stories, but what happens in the clubhouse stays in the clubhouse. No, I'm
Well,
just
they
kidding.
haven't
Uh,
changed. If that tells you anything, I don't know if you keep in touch with them, and we hope to see you down at camp one day.
oh, that'd be great. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
You got to get
Trying to
Doug
find
Dickey
my
to make sure
volume
he
here.
does that. Now, you know what? I was going to go to Damon, but I got to give props to Jeff Cohn because I think this is episode 37. I think he's the first person to master the raise hand function on Zoom. So, Jeff, go ahead. You're up.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Matt. Enjoyed the stories here. I have two questions for you. You mentioned that you played for Bobby Valentine in Japan,
Yeah.
and I just finished reading a book about a Japan baseball player. So, what was it like being a gaijin in Japan?
It was awesome. Japan was great. I loved playing in Japan. They treated us as royalty over there, no doubt about that. Man, Japan was great. I was actually talking with my wife about that. It's the 20th anniversary of when we won the World Series over there. So kind of Japan's been on my mind. Yeah, I love playing over there. God, there's a lot we can talk. My first son was born over there, for one thing. That was cool. Yeah, being a Gaijin there was pretty it was pretty amazing. We were famous, man. No doubt about that. I got to live that lifestyle that I saw in the States, like a Piazza, people chipper, guys like that, where just everybody wants your time all the time and autographs. And, it was really fun for me because I never really got to play every day in the major leagues. I was always a little bit of a role player. I got to play a little bit in 2002 in Atlanta, but still not an everyday player. And to be in Japan and be one of the team captains and hitting fourth or fifth every day, a big part of the team. That was fun, getting to play every day and being a huge part of a team and having success there. And yeah, the fans loved us over there. It was a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. And my other question is, 1984, I was an intern for the Mets working for Jay Harward. So I was wondering
Oh
if you had
yeah.
any Jay Harward stories.
Oh man, Jay's the best. That guy's he's incredible. He still works with the team, I believe. Yeah, Jay did everything for us, man. Reservations at the restaurant, logistic tickets for the family. That guy's he's a machine, man. Nobody would want his job and nobody did it better than Jay. Uh Jay's one of those guys that you will never no one could ever say a single bad word about Jay Horwitz. Just the kindest man that you'll ever meet, always there for you. He handled so much stuff. He handled all the media, all the interviews, all the travelages. I mean, he did everything. Guy was amazing. And we used to bust his chops a little bit, no doubt about it, but he took it well. And he knew that in baseball, if you're not getting your chops busted, something's wrong. That's a form of love up there.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Jeff brought up Japan, and I remember Eric Hillman talking about the first time he got fight money.
Uh-huh.
Did you? What was that like, coming back to your locker and just finding cash like on your stool and not
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that was great, man. All my checks went straight into the account, and I lived off that fight money. That was great. I never really figured out what the formula was. We would just it was on the road, and we'd come home from the road trip, and here would come the envelope. And you knew if you had a good road trip that there was going to be some money in there. And we used to joke around with each other like, "Ooh, my check's going to be bigger than yours. My envelope's going to be bigger than yours, dude. I tore it up over there, and you didn't." So that was fun. Always getting to see what was in that envelope.
Nice.
That was exciting.
So I was gonna go to Damon because Damon actually was the second person with his hand up, but this is a record. Back to back, using the raise hand function. So I got to go to Tony.
Oh, hey, Tony.
Hey Matt. So I was wondering, locally here we had a double A Pittsfield Mass Cubs team. Had Greg Maddox, Mark Grace, Rafi Palmeiro, Dwight Smith,
Smith.
Jerome Walton. Did you ever
Yeah.
play at Wacona Park?
I didn't. I never played there. That was double A back then with the Cubs, I
Yes.
believe. Right?
Yes.
Mark Grace and
Yep.
yeah, all those
Jamie
guys played
Moyer.
there. I was a little bit behind that. And then by the time I got to double A, it wasn't there anymore.
Okay.
But I know all those guys. That was kind of cool when I was with the Cubs, going to spring training a couple years with them. I got to know all those guys, great players.
Nice.
Yeah, I love my time in Chicago.
I also go to fantasy camp, and Turk Wendell is from my hometown. He's from here, and so since I finally got to meet him, we kind of got friends because we got a lot in common as far as this small town. Got any good Turk stories?
Oh man, Turk is one of a kind, boy. Turk Wendell, I love Turk. Turk and I became really close. He is the real Jeremiah Johnson. I mean, he is the real deal out in the. I think there's one of the stories about Turk was he went out to go hunting one day and his wife had to dial 911 because she hadn't seen him in 3 days, and he went out there and stayed out in the woods for 3 days hunting this elk. I mean, he was amazing. He bought one of those not plastic, rubber deer that had the target on the thing, and he'd go out in the bullpen and put the deer at like second base and shooting arrows at the thing. He was the real deal, man. What a nice man. Turk, I got a soft spot in my heart for Turk. He's one of those special guys that just the nicest guy in the world, a great competitor, and a very unique individual, to say the least.
I like that adjective. That's good. Unique
Yeah.
is perfect. All right, Damon, I made you wait long enough. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Mark? Thanks for having me. Hey,
You got
Matt,
it.
how are you, bud?
Hey, Damon.
I have a couple for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When you went to Japan and you played every day, right? I'm just going
Yep.
off Jeff's question a little bit. You showed a lot of pop. Hit 21 home runs. I think your second year there.
Yeah.
As a pinch hitter in the major leagues, what did you do to prepare for it? You know, when it was coming up, that your time might be coming up to pinch hit. What did you do? Did you go hit
Yeah,
balls?
well, we kind of had a routine. We called ourselves the bench dogs. Todd Pratt, Joe McEwing, guys like that, Kurt Abbott, Louis Lopez. I love those guys. About the fifth inning, we'd all go up into the clubhouse, get in the batting cage, start getting loose, throw each other flips. We all knew that we were at some point going to probably get in the game. So about the fifth inning, we go in there and start working up a sweat, get ready. And by that point in the game, sixth, seventh inning, we knew what our roles were, so we could kind of look ahead and see where the possibility might come up. I generally hit for the pitcher in those games. Ray, once in a while, I'd hit for him. So when that 8-9 spot would be coming up, I knew that there was a good chance I'd be hitting that next inning. Same thing for the backup infielder. If one of us hits for the infielder, then someone will go in for defense, vice versa. So yeah, you know what your role is, and you can kind of prepare for it and know when it's coming. Stay ahead of the game.
One of your bigger ones was just happened to be against the Hall of Famer. It was your third home run that you hit. I remember watching the game very clearly against Pedro.
Oh yeah,
Could you
that
talk
was
about
nice.
that one a
That's one
little
of
bit?
my great highlights. I mean, Pedro Martinez, I have to tell people nowadays when it comes, I'm like, wait a minute, you might have heard his name, but back then in 1999 or 97, he was like unhittable. I think he won the Cy Young that year. I know he might have won it the year before, and he was like, nobody could hit him. He had an under a 2 ERA for a couple years. And another thing, it's similar to the Mariano at bat. He hung changeup was his out pitch. And he just hung me a changeup, and the same thing. He probably hung 3 or 4 changeups that whole year, and one of them was to me. And I knew Pedro a little bit from playing in the Dominican Republic. I got to know him a little bit, and the next day, I was sitting out there in the thing, and Todd Pratt was next to me, and I'm like, is Pedro like staring me down right now? We were looking across the thing, and he was looking at me, and I looked at Todd. I'm like, is he staring me down right now? What's going on with that? And I looked back, and he was pointing at me, and he went like, change up, no more change ups to you. So that was pretty cool. He was another great guy. What a nice man. But yeah, that's definitely a highlight of my career, hitting a home run off Pedro Martinez. Are you kidding? Wow.
So, you mentioned about knowing like you hit for the eighth or ninth. And granted, I mean, 25 years ago doesn't seem that long, but in baseball technology, it's like the Stone Age. So, back then, you knew your roles and maybe seventh or eighth inning, you knew the relievers of the other teams. Were there like advanced scouting reports? Did you know that like, all right, this relief pitcher's not going today because he pitched yesterday, but this one's going and I have good numbers? Was there that type of analytics back then? And did you prepare
Yeah.
for pitchers?
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have probably the same quite analytics, but yeah, that's exactly what we did. Before every game, you have a hitters meeting, and they talk about the starter, this, that, show you a little video. And then when they talk to the pinch hitters, they say, here's who's you're going to face tonight, either this guy or that guy. You don't have to worry about him. He pitched last night. This is the lefty. You won't hit against him. So I always knew between 2 or 3 guys who I was going to face that night.
Who was the one reliever that you never wanted to face?
Oh man, there's a lot of them. Eric Gagne would be the one that comes to mind the most. Yeah. He's one of the few guys. People ask me this a lot, who is the toughest? And to me, Kerry Wood was the toughest pitcher I ever had to face. He wasn't a reliever, but those are two guys that stand out where basically your goal going to the plate is to not embarrass yourself. Forget about forget about getting a hit because that ain't happening. You're literally just trying to not embarrass yourself. There's some guys like that. Other players will have a different pitcher where, for whatever reason, you're just not seeing what's coming out of his hand. And I think Kerry Wood struck me out 3 times and on 9 pitches, something like that. Like I couldn't see the ball. I'd swinging at balls, miss. I had no chance against him. And the same with Gagne. Just couldn't see his changeup. But I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of people that struggled with him.
Yeah, he was filthy. Sal, you're real quiet tonight. That must mean you have no memorabilia.
Well, Mark, no baseball cards tonight.
Oh,
We did pull Matt out of the yearbook, and look at this great shot of Matt.
Ah,
oh, nice. All right, yearbook. All right, we'll give it to you. It's not up to your standards, so I will have to say that. But go ahead, ask your question.
But I do have a couple of questions, Matt. When you came to the Mets in '96, you got Gilkey's having a career year. Hundley hits 41 homers. Lance Johnson has 227 hits. John Franco's 300th save. Generation K. Did you feel like, boy, did I just step into it?
yeah, I did. That was amazing. Those guys were having great years, man. I don't remember. Was that might have been one of the years where we came up right to the end and almost made the playoffs, but I don't think so. I feel like we were out. You guys would know better than me. But yeah, that was awesome getting to play with. I mentioned Bernard Gilkey before. I became really good friends with Todd Hundley and Bernard Gilkey, two of the mainstays on the team that year. They kind of took me under their wing, which was great. Yeah, that was fun. That was really exciting because it was all so new to me. That's when I got that experience with the Cubs a little bit, but when I was in New York, I really remember like, wow, man, I am in the big leagues now. That was a fun. I was only there for a month, maybe a little bit more than a month, but that was very memorable.
And when you came here, you got to play a little bit more. Who were the guys? Well, you mentioned Gilkey. Who were the guys that really grabbed you and said, okay, we're going to take care of you and guide you through the process here?
Yeah, I mean, Todd and Bernard probably the most. God, I know there's some other guys. I'm just trying to go back to that 96. Yeah, what stands out to me were Todd and Bernard, probably because they were like superstars, and I was a little in awe of them and felt very fortunate that they kind of took me under their wing.
Yeah, Lance Johnson, one dog with all those
Well,
triples
one
that
dog.
season.
Yeah.
One dog, man.
Lance
Gotta love
Johnson, he I'll never won't forget him for many reasons, but he wasn't the biggest guy.
Nope.
He used a 36-inch, 36-ounce bat. Mike Piazza used a 35-inch, 33-ounce to give you a little thing of what's going on there. He used a 36-inch, 36-ounce bat, and he just had this way of just dropping the bat on the ball, dropping the barrel of the bat, and he hit the ball hard, and he was fun to watch, man. He was dynamic that year.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any more questions for Matt before we let him go? Nope. Matt, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot
Great
for having me,
stories.
guys.
Oh, anytime.
It's
Pleasure
great
to
having you,
be
man.
here.